The views expressed in this interview are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Navy, or the Naval Postgraduate School. Welcome to the Trident Room, brewer of stout conversation, unfiltered and on tap. On today's episode of the Trident Room, Below the Surface, we get to know Trident Room host Michael Gannon.
We actually should probably be expanding the school to include specifically educational studies and up to masters, so like the officers who are running, like the OPSOs and the academic officers who are running schoolhouses for the DoD, probably should have a master's in education and modern learning modalities. So they have their experience in their occupational field. They have their field of study that was completely separate, be it psychology, business, be it, American Sign Language or STEM, right? So they have the diversity of experience or accounting. And they have all these different diversities of experience and thought and everything else. And now they are getting the most up-to-date educational stuff. And how do we leverage data within education? And what does that do for course refinement? Because right now, like, courses get updated once every 3 years, and we send it out to the masses of the MOS and say, hey, what do we need to improve? Well, the manpower community, I'll use my own occupation that I know so well. Okay, how often do more admins come out? We get 300 a year-ish? How many policy changes and implementations at the ground level does that change within the manpower community? Lots. So that's 900 plus all NAVs, plus Congress, plus NDAA, plus any informational structural changes within the physical systems or the virtual systems that we use change. And our course curriculum gets updated once a year, once every other year, once every 18 months, once every 3 years, right? We are not even designed to do that. So, and we don't have professionals who are even trained or educated within that. We may have one civilian who's the point of continuity that manages the learning management system at a schoolhouse or something, but we don't have professionally taught people who understand and can implement and apply and leverage data, information sciences, and the most up-to-date educational concepts and modalities and virtualizations, name it, for our schoolhouses. So we're hindering ourselves. And if we don't teach it and we don't create a place to do this and really study it, that means the 40,000 Marines I think we make a year, we're going to probably be delaying, which means we're increasing on-the-job training, which is a decrease in readiness. This is an institutional structural failing that affects everything from retention to knowing how we should target students to knowing who we need to draw in, because we don't know who's the most successful, because we don't know enough about the data will feed itself, and then maybe it's a data it's going to become a beast in it itself. And right, if we don't have the people in place and we're not training them, and at that level, training's not the right word, because training would be me telling you how to do something in a specific task sequence or mechanism, right? We need people educated, deeply educated, with the experience, with a wealth of knowledge, with the diversity of experiences and thoughts and everything else that come from the myriad of backgrounds that comprise our officer corps, that can then, and we need this, we also need a place to systematize and educate, the instructors, the staff NCOs and the junior officers that are going to be instructing and going through experimental learning and using virtual modalities and hybrid blended learning environments. Right? We need to educate them on how to do that. A recent doctoral PhD dissertation came out from University of Milwaukee or Wisconsin. Student surveys and indicators and everything. It's not academic performance and academic preparation that that indicate success for college students, but it's adult skills, time management, life skills, adult support. Having a good adult support, having an appropriate support network, having, adequate, all the other soft skills and mechanisms. It is obvious that America's family networks are destroyed and have been dismantled for a various myriad of reasons that I will not deride into. Since we're seeing, right, educationally, and we can see this in the most recent generation, right, specifically, I'd say people less than 25, right, so a decade younger than myself, especially with the information era, specifically Internet of Things, Internet on our cell phones. The learning skills and coping mechanisms and the soft skills, the intangible skills that used to be collectively taught by the village and parents and social fragmentation of knowledge no longer occurs, which means the maturing of adolescence is getting deterred, and it's going up a little bit longer. I think it was Bradley Cooper or Matthew McConaughey, Failure to Launch, with Sarah Jessica Parker. Well, that's funny. That's a great movie. It's a joke, and Terry Bradshaw, and we want the kid out of the house. But how many kids are actually, like, why did the Affordable Care Act, right? Why did that allow children to be on insurance until the age of 25? Well, it's because they're not getting out of the house and becoming fully sustaining, self-fulfilling, right? So that's indication of, one, the educational system, right, and the failings in the educational modalities and mechanisms within the K through 12 enterprise of America. And that's also indication of the avocation of raising our children by the parents, so generationally, and the people doing it. Because World War II, not making a comparison on what they had to learn or anything, but an 18-year-old leaving high school in 1942 very much knew that they needed to get out of the house. I understand cost of living and everything else, and there's lots of other myriads of factors that, right? There's a level of got it, right? Okay, World War II, we're doing this. Korea, we're doing this. Vietnam, I don't want to, but I'm doing this. All right? Good, bad, or indifferent. Well, now it's not, okay, I'm an adult. I'm going to do college, and it's a 4-year degree, but it's taking me 6 years. Why is the Department of Education now measuring graduation rates of colleges in 6 years for something that's 4 years, which, if you go during the summers and winter quarter, can be done in 36 months? Why is that? Something that can be accomplished in 36 months being measured at 6 years as the graduation rate. Why? Because students aren't graduating. Why? Well, why aren't they graduating? And what does this mean? This is a DoD problem. All right. Operation Readiness has discussed on this. Lots of flag officers have talked about this. All the problems, all the issues, everything that I've discussed in the DoD, Dr. Timothy Kane, the total volunteer force, the fallout effects of the Goldwater-Nichols Act of 1986, right? Interoperability requirements. All of these things are known. All of the problems are known. We also know what we don't know. And we don't know what we don't know, right? Rumsfeld said it best. We are not getting rid of the things that are, becoming anchors because of blacklistings, because of bureaucratic institutions, because we're tied to something that already exists, or the mantra, this is how we've always done it. And it's all of these things. It's the age of information is faster and faster, and we're not moving at the age of information. And people argue like, well, China doesn't have a lot of military experience. They don't. Do we have a lot of military experience? We have a lot of global deployments. We have a lot of special operations. We have a lot of elite special units. We have a lot of people who have gone to the Middle East and commuted to war and gone from FOB with their green bean coffee, gone out and commuted to war. But do we have a lot of experience in the future information age conflict of hypersonics and AI systems in integrated operations of over-the-horizon amphibious shores against a near peer with aerial denial and anti-access capabilities? Do we have a lot of experience in that either?
So,
yeah, I'm just
to get there, what is one group or population that you think, if you could reach out and touch, that you would, and why?
People who are families and young women right now who are pregnant, getting pregnant, having children, and everything else. Right? You have children, you're raising adults. That's first. You have children, you have a baby, you have an infant, you have something that's 100% dependent upon you, right? From from conception in the womb, 100% defenseless to it can now breathe on its own. Now it can walk and it can feed. Like it's growing. Your human child is growing. It needs to be an adult. Right? Your son or daughter needs to grow up and be an adult. That means emotionally. That means physically, financially. That like everything that comprises from that. We need the people that are having children now to do a better job raising their kids, right? Like you want to talk about school violence and violence across the country and everything else. Well, the solution isn't guns. The solution isn't knives. Those are tools in which we use, right? Well, why do children and young adults feel the need to leverage violence, permanent violence against another human being to solve their problems? Why is that? All right? So let's teach them the emotional maturity, the skills, and the necessary things to be an adult, and a young adult, adolescent person that can talk through problems, that can hear ideas that conflict with their own, and not scream at the top of their lungs and demand that they don't even hear ideas at their own. Like, the conceptualization that we should censor things that may upset us. Well, no. Like, life's hard. We covered that. My life's been a crap show of half my own making and half of bad luck. Well, right? Like,
post-traumatic growth then, right?
Yeah. Like, there's two ways to react to my personal situation. I'll use my parents' divorce. Right? Sorry, Dad. Right? So, right? And Thomas Sowell has spoken about this, right? A Marine economist, great man, awesome, right? Even in the family, right? Family nucleus, mom, dad, 3 kids. The genetics of the first child to the third child vary and different. The money, outcomes, situations, and opportunities for the first child to the third child will be different. One will get a lot more time than the other. One may have more resources than the other because you're younger when you have your first kid. If they're every 3 years, that's a decade. Well, how much more money can you be making in a decade if you go from lower management to middle to upper, right? So your first child may have had lots of time with you because you had more time because of your position in life and where you were at. But they probably didn't have the same financial resources. Your oldest child or your youngest child may have more financial resources but less time with you, right? So we can't even guarantee equity of outcome and equality of outcome and opportunity and everything within our own family, right? With the people that we love and our own offspring. Like, it is impossible. Elon Musk can't do it, right? So if he can't, nobody can. So recognize that's a reality. That doesn't mean we shouldn't strive for better. Just recognize that's a reality. And you have two ways to react to your situation in your life, right? I'll use my parents' divorce and everything else. My brother had more time and better stuff, and he was older. He was in high school when my parents divorced, and it was horrible. I was going from middle school or elementary to middle school. My grandmother died. We moved from New Jersey. Like, it destroyed my life, and then I went on a spiral of bad decisions, right? I'm 35 now. Well, I could yell at my dad and say, well, Dad, it's your fault. Well, it is his fault he got divorced. Like, fact, right? Him and my mom, fact, got it. Right, not blaming anybody, just that's the reality. And you're right. Like, if I was to say I'm a victim of the situation and I made those decisions because I was a victim of my parents' situation and the environment I was in and everything, and it's not really my fault, there's some accuracy in that. There really is. You know, as an adolescent, as a child, I didn't know hanging out with these people were going to cause me to make some bad decisions. You know, I didn't know that. I'm young, right? But at a certain point, it doesn't matter that I am a victim of those circumstances, that life happened to me, and that my parents are who I are, right? Right? Because, right, I could demand money from my dad. I could demand anything from him. But I'm a 35-year-old man, and I'm an adult, married, going on 10 years. Nothing he can do can go back in time and correct what has happened. And nothing he can do can actually right the ship and fix it. But it can make me feel better by yelling at him, placing blame, right? And it can it can allow me to abdicate my personal responsibility for my life and where I'm at right now forward. Because the only person who's ever actually been responsible for my life is me. That's it. Like, when I was 8, 9, 10, 12, yeah, it was me. The reason I hung out with bad friends is because I made bad decisions. There's no, right? So if I fail to take responsibility, I cannot guarantee, I can change the course trajectory of my life. And right, like, we need to raise children, and we need to have this perspective, and we need to understand this collectively as a human society and people and as individuals. You're right. People have made mistakes. People have done horrible things, right? The United States government has made plenty of them, right? We can talk about the internment of the Japanese and Asian Americans. We can talk about the first anti-immigration bill, 1898, against the Chinese. We can talk about what happened to the Irish up until roughly President Kennedy, and the first Irish president was assassinated. We could talk about all the horrible things, right, that have happened to people throughout time, throughout history, and everything else. One, we can't go back and correct it. We can learn from it. We can apologize, and we can do our best to not do that. We can assess where we're at. But there is no solution for your situation, whoever you are, that actually can succeed where you're not responsible for it. If you're not responsible for the outcomes of your life, then you have no control, and you're giving power and authority over your life to somebody else. So if you want to blame the fact that your parents didn't love you enough and give you everything you need and pay for your college and underwrite everything so you could be successful. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that's great. But then, right, for you to get your life trajectory corrected under that narrative, that requires you to allow them to have authority and responsibility over your life, because now they're the people that will be the measure and accomplish the success, because you're giving, right? I mean, this can apply to some of the interpretations of what's going on in race relations and everything else, which, if we were to get into the microcosms of all the specifics, yeah, I'll agree. Plenty of horrible things have happened to plenty of horrible people. Like, horrible people have had horrible things happen to them. Good people have had bad, there's outright, name your group and we can talk about the litany of horrible things that have happened to them. All right, like some more so than others. All right. Well, you have two options. Blame somebody else for your problems, and they may be responsible for it. They really may. They may have actually outright gone out of their way to make your life difficult and harder every day. They may actually be like, Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls, right? Like going after the plastics, like this, like
drill instructors.
Yeah, they drill, right? That may be the reality. Guess what? If you don't take authority over your life and take responsibility for it and put yourself in control of it, it doesn't matter that they're responsible or not because you're still not doing anything about it, right? Like, I don't have the same educational opportunities because my school is low income okay, got it, great, right? And maybe that's because the local mayor is a bastard and maybe he's a horrible person and he is racist and he just doesn't want to give you money, right? Or maybe it's because of property taxes because the houses are crap there, right? Name the reason. Okay, well, lots of those things you can't really do anything about, most of them actually. But you can take responsibility over your education. That means, going to the library. That means checking out books. That means using massive open online courseware. That means, getting creative for your education. Maybe that means enlisting in the Marine Corps because you dropped out of high school, dropped out of college, got your GED, lost your license. Oh yeah, got kicked out of your apartment. And had to ride on the back of your dad's motorcycle to the Troubled Teen Center to get your degree. Well, maybe it means you should probably take responsibility for your life and be in charge of it and then start directing the outcomes that will come out of it. Because if you do, maybe you'll have a say in what comes out of it and maybe you'll have an impact on it. Maybe you can change its trajectory.
I think that's a good word. Take responsibility and grow.
Yeah. Life sucks. It's hard. Get over it. I'm not saying I can't empathize with you, but or anybody or any situation or your feelings or emotions or your grievances aren't fair or correct. I'm just saying, maybe, you got hit by a car. I could play the victim. I could be angry.
You certainly could.
Yeah, I could be angry at the guy who hit me. I know his name, but I just, no need to announce it. I could be angry at him. I have every right. I could sue him for all of his money. I have every right. But we chose just to go after his insurance. That's it. The cap of the insurance, even though we could have gone higher. Right? Could have taken his house, could have done everything. But here's the thing. It wouldn't change what happened to me. And it wouldn't change the outcome and trajectory of my life. That amount of money. More money. If I took his house, made him destitute, and lived with his family, and that was an option. That was a literal on the plate option. They're like, oh yeah, this is, yeah, you can have everything, right? That still wouldn't change the outcome and results and trajectory of my life, because who was going to, right? No amount of money. Who was going to ensure that I physically was able to recover and do the physical therapy and go through the process of running again,
or being some resemblance of you?
Yeah, well, people can encourage me, people can rally behind me, people can be my cheerleader, people can help me out, people can drive me to the doctor's appointment, people can do lots of things for me. But they can't make me do it. And the only person in charge of my recovery, and the only person in charge and really has the authority and capabilities to direct that outcome is me, and was me. even my wife's ability and capabilities and everything come to a point of limit.
Mm.
Right?
What is one thing that you can remember that both causes you to shed a tear and burst out in laughter at the same time?
I got a couple of them. Some are not appropriate for the podcast. There's one. I have a video, right? And my sister's videotaping. She's in the hospital. And she's trying to get me to talk to somebody. I don't know who. And she's like, "Hey, Mike, so and so's on the phone or something." I'm just like, and she goes, "Hey, open your eye so you can see." And the reason she said eye is because my left side of the face was so swollen shut, and they did the surgery and they had to rebuild the orbit. That eye didn't open. Like my left, like it's not doing anything, and I've got this whole slurred face droop thing, stroke victim going on. And then she goes, "Oh, eyes, open your," like, and she realizes like she just made that comment, and she's a special needs educator and works at a facility and clinic to help physically and mentally challenged adults and adolescents. So she is like one of the most compassionate and loving and patient human beings I've ever known in my life. And like, she's like, "Open your eye," and my situation was so bad I couldn't open, and that's just funny. That one's pretty funny. Another one is my brother played college football, Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, right? Rich husbands in training, because it's that great of an engineering school. Like 97% job placement rate. Like, right, like amazing engineering school. Played football, college, 6 foot something. He's tall, he's big. Went to OSU, graduated, right? He's a great guy. He's somebody I idolize and look up to, because he's amazing. He really is. He's awesome. But I'm like in this weird coma drug state, and I'm recording a video to him, and I'm like, "Hey, Tiff, you're weak, you're old, you're fat, you're out of shape, you piddle paddle around the issue like a 12-year-old girl, and something else." And like, there's no context or anything, right? But my brother to this day could probably just, shatter my eye socket in like one punch. And I'm like broken, disabled, mentally challenged, like horrible state, drug induced, everything. And I'm trying to like do the sibling rivalry, combative thing. And I'm just like, and that's just ridiculous. And then there's a really good moment, but I cried from it, because it was the realization of the injuries. It was probably the first cognitive moment. I don't remember it, but we have the video of it, where I realized my situation, and I right, this is child logic. I'm like, one cannot run, one cannot gun, no Marine Corps. Like, I can't run and I can't shoot. I can't be a Marine. And that, like, and it still chokes me up now. But like, I realized at that moment in the hospital bed, and it happened to be on video, so it's hilarious. We should have a meme after it. But I can't do the shoot, move, and communicate. I can't be a Marine. And that moment broke me. And that's huge. Right? Like, the idea that I couldn't be a Marine at that point was huge. I just got, like, and that was probably the biggest thing. And it and it is what it is, but it's Like, those are the 3 video clips, and maybe I only think they're great because I have those 3 video clips, and I want to remember them in their best light. But, and maybe I'll send you guys the sound audio. They're pretty funny. They're pretty funny.
Well, sir, I'm beyond grateful that you decided to share your story with us today. It's so interesting to get to meet the different students here at NPS from all walks of life. We talk about everything from, you going through the challenges of being a young adult to messing up completely, finding the Marine Corps, and it's almost like it was your saving grace in a way.
Yeah.
And then coming to the brink where you almost lost it, but yet it's almost like that red thread kind of held you up,
Yeah.
Stitched you back together, and here you are today, presenting a big idea, exchanging a big idea, and even here on the Trident podcast.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you.
Thanks for joining us in the Trident Room. For more information about today's guests and topics, please visit the show notes. The Trident Room has been brought to you by the Naval Postgraduate School Alumni Association and Foundation. For questions, comments, and suggestions, please email us at tridentroompodcasthost@nps.edu and find us online at nps.edu/Trident Room Podcast.